Welcome back to the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft podcast. My name's Chris Spear, and I'm going to be your guide to enjoying the great outdoors. So today we're going to move right out of the fire chapter. We're going to move out of the chapter, and we're going to move into the food chapter or the food section, and it's going to be, let's see, page 182 if you're following along in your book. But first, I have a little mail that came, and I want to open this package here. And this is going to be from one of my viewers, Mr. Almond. And we'll hide any kind of addresses and stuff like that. But he asked that I would sign his book. And so I said, what better opportunity to do that than to do it on the podcast? So right here. All right. So I'm going to be dropping this in the mail Monday, and you should be getting it pretty soon. Okay. All right, so moving along, we have food, and food is one of those things that you can go without for a very, very, very long time. I mean, think about it. Jesus did 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness without anything to eat. He fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. After that, it's when the devil came to tempt him because he was at his lowest or his weakest. So the devil came to tempt him with bread, and the first thing he tempted him with was food. And so food is one of those things that after a while, you will almost do anything to get it because you know that you are, if you don't have enough food, you will die. You'll be malnourished. You will slowly, your body systems will start shutting down. So food is extremely, extremely important, but it's not as important as shelter, fire, and water. Excuse me. But let me explain why. So shelter is one of those things that you're going to need to keep you, keep the elements off of you, keep the rain, keep the wind, keep the cold. You know, it's going to create a microclimate or a little area where you can control the environment. Okay, so shelter is something that is important, and it is not you necessarily it is necessarily you first. I'm sorry I said that. It is your first priority when you're out in the woods. You know, if you're in a survival type situation. But anyway, then after that, you're going to try to get some fire for warmth. And then after that, you're going to be looking for water. And the fire is actually going to help purify your water or render it safe to drink and get rid of all the biological contaminations. So, and then after that, then you worry about your food. You can go several days, several weeks without food. Has anybody ever watched the TV show Alone or Naked and Afraid? You know, I get it, whether you think Naked and Afraid is a real survival show or not or whatever. It still shows you something that these guys go 21 days without eating usually. And sometimes they find something, sometimes they don't. So, but Alone, I've watched that series on Alone where these folks went days and days and days, weeks without eating anything. Then finally they get a piece of fish and they're like, oh my God, and they eat. And I remember watching one episode of Naked and Afraid where a guy dug up a tuber, some kind of tuber. It was full of carbohydrates and everything. Hadn't had anything to eat in like 2.5 weeks. They were almost getting ready to leave. And he ate that tuber, and it had so many sugars and so many carbs in there that he passed out and slept all day long after eating that. So, but yeah, food is one of those detrimental things that can be pushed off a little bit, but you have to have it. Eventually you have to have it. Your body has to have nourishment and nutrition. You have to have these vitamins and minerals and stuff like that, to keep all your systems and organs to work the correct way they're supposed to work, especially like your heart, your brain, all your endocrine system, all your different systems have to have certain vitamins and minerals in order for them to work correctly. Heart is your main thing. Well, the heart and the brain are your two main things that have to have vitamins and nutrients. If you don't get enough potassium, you're going to throw stuff out of whack. Your heart's going to start skipping beats, stuff like that. You don't get enough fats, then you're going to start getting real foggy. You have to have fats. A lot of people's like, I'm cutting all fat out of my diet. Well, that's crazy, because if you don't have fat, then, sugar and fats is what feeds your brain and stuff like that. So, going straight to the book right here, right out of the pages. We all have our go-to foods when we're at home. They're our comfort foods at home. But when heading out to the wilderness, a little outside of the box, or in my case, potato chip bag, thinking it sometimes is required. That didn't make a lick of sense, did it? We all have our go-to foods when we're in the comfort of our own homes. But when we head out into the wilderness, a little outside the box, thinking is sometimes required. So now that sounded better. I don't know why I jumbled that all up a while ago. But, oh well, hey, get used to it, because I jumble things up left and right. It's crazy. So one of the food items that I will always bring with me whenever I go camping is going to be this dude right here. All right. And, not a shameless plug, but the Primitive Camping Blend coffee. I'm not, and even whenever I don't have this, I have some form of coffee with me. And that is one of the things that's going to help energize you. It just gives you reassurance in the morning when you wake up. And it just is nothing like having a good old cup of coffee in the morning, hot cup of coffee in the morning, especially on a cold morning. But, there are many things you could do to prepare before you go out into the woods, especially when you're going camping. You could do so much. There's so many variables when it comes to people. People are picky. Case in point, my wife is the pickiest person in the world, and she will not eat certain things, and some things that I think is out of this world delicious. She's like, oh no, it's got too much X, Y, or Z, some kind of something in it, a spice that I don't like. And I'm like, you are so picky. And then there's other family members that they're so picky, the only thing they eat is chicken nuggets or hot dogs, and I'm like, golly, how do you survive off of just that? But apparently you can. But we got to think outside the box whenever we start packing our foods. And there's many things that you could do to prepare, even if you're planning to procure your food while you're camping. You're not going to be able to procure all your food while you're in the woods. You can procure a lot. Now, some individuals will. Some people go out there with a rifle, shotgun, or something like that, deer hunt, or wild game, some kind of wild game or whatever. But depending on the seasons, you're not always going to have a hunting season where you're located. And, unless it is a true survival situation, shooting or killing any kind of game out of season is illegal in most, all 50 states plus the rest of the world. So it is frowned upon. So when you're planning to go several miles into the woods, let's say you load your backpack up. You want to head out, and cool thing. This is a segue here. This is a tangent, or this is off track. But cool thing is I just recently did a video on some bags for some vacuum seal bags from Flextail, or it used to be Flextail Gear, but I believe they changed their name to Flextail. And these vacuum seal bags are pretty cool because it allowed me to put my wool blanket in there and soak it or suck it down to where there was no air in the bag, and it was cool. It took up so a lot less room. Plus, it kept everything waterproof. I did my clothes. I did my pillow. I did a pillow. I hardly ever take a pillow with me when I go in the woods, but this time I wanted to test it out because pillows fluff up real big. So I did that. But anyway, when you're loading your gear, weight is going to be a considerable factor. And so by using these bags, I was able to reduce some of the volume in the bag, which allowed me to carry a little bit more food on my trip. You follow me? I know I said weight is a factor. It is, but volume is also a factor inside that bag. But by using these Ziploc, they're Ziploc style vacuum seal bags, and whenever you take all the air out of that bag, it is just like a vacuum seal. Like if you've seen a vacuum sealer before, that's what it is. And it's pretty cool. And I never experienced that or used that or thought to use that in my outdoor camping gear. And so, but you got to be careful. You vacuum seal it, put it in there, everything fits tight. And then when you get out there, you ain't got a way to reseal it or anything like that. And you're going to be messed up trying to get everything into your stuff back into your backpack. But when you're planning to travel several miles into the great outdoors and you load your backpack up, food becomes a major consideration because for two reasons. Food is very heavy and you need it to survive. Calories are energy. And during my time in the military, I ate more MREs than I ever cared to count. MREs were something. And there was one that I would eat constantly, and that's the beef stew. I love the beef stew, and I didn't care for the rest as much as I did the beef stew. That was the best one. But, sometimes they were good, sometimes they were horrible. And you, like anything else, you eat the same things over and over and over, you're going to get sick of it. And I got deployed to the middle of Alaska. It was a 21-day, we were cleaning a bombing range. And yeah, I don't think I could talk about this, but we were cleaning out a bombing range, a target practice range, and we were out there for 21 days. And I decided that I was going to save money, and I had to provide my own food, and I was going to save money. And I brought ramen noodles, and I ate ramen noodles for 21 days. And let me tell you, that was 20 some odd years ago, and I have not touched ramen noodles since. The pack of ramen noodles, I have not touched them since. I will not touch them. I will never eat ramen noodles again. But, the ones in the cup are different. They have the little vegetables and everything, but the little powdered ones in the little pack, I just have not touched them ever since. I turned my stomach. But, when you're planning to head out there, you're going several miles into the woods, weight versus, nutrition becomes a thing. Now, I've watched several videos. I mentioned him before, but Clay Hayes on his videos, he went to Alaska and they dropped him off. He went on a moose hunt and he was out there for a couple of weeks, something like that, 2 weeks. I don't remember how long he was out there. But when he was out there, he would eat the Mountain House MREs, or he would eat, not MREs, but the Mountain House freeze-dried meals. And I can remember him saying that he knows that he's losing weight because he could feel it in his waistline, but he would be interested to see how much he weighs when he gets back to a scale, because the calories in the bag was not covering the calories he was expending while he was out there. So when you're in Alaska, speaking for somebody that lived there, you just walking through the woods, you expend a lot of calories, So when you're in a situation where you're expending a lot of calories, you have to be able to replenish those calories. If not, you're going to be in a negative calorie deficit. So you're going to start using more calories than you actually are taking in. And whenever you do that, it turns into a negative calorie situation. And that's when you start losing weight. That's what happens. That's why people go on diets, because they will go to the gym and work out and expend all the calories they can. All right. And then they will not replenish all those calories with food. And so it puts them in a negative calorie. And so they lose weight. It's not because of the act of the working out. The working out is the method of burning those calories. Aerobics and all this will actually help you get to the point to where you're burning your calories faster. But what's happening is you're not replacing the calories you're using. You could do the same thing going out into the woods camping. When I go out on a 10-day trip, it is nothing for me to lose between 7 and 10 pounds on a 10-day trip, because I'm expending a lot of calories and I'm not replacing all the useless calories that I eat whenever I'm here at home. Let's say I'm here at home and I'm just laying around. We have a tendency, if you do this for one day, write down every single thing you put in your mouth. All right. It's kind of like the calorie counter. All right. And that you will be surprised at how many calories you eat in one day. I'm telling you now, you will. You will be extremely surprised at how many calories you really actually eat. Nobody really consciously thinks about it because, everybody's warm and cozy and comfortable, and this is America, and we ain't got to worry about those kind of things. But if you consciously take the effort to actually think about what you're putting in your mouth, dude, you're eating way more calories than you need, and I promise you, you're eating more calories than you're actually using, and that's how you end up gaining weight. You'll say put on a couple of pounds, and you think about this. Thanksgiving every year, they average that the average person is going to gain, 4 to 6 pounds every Thanksgiving to Christmas season, the holiday season there, and yes, it is Christmas. It's not holiday, it's Christmas, and Thanksgiving is Thanksgiving. So, we could debate that offline if you'd like. But anyway, for between Thanksgiving and Christmas, the average person gains about 4 to 6 pounds. And that's because we eat way more than we're actually, expending. And that is the whole thing about being at home. A lot of times, unless you are conscious about what you're actually eating, you're actually going to not expend, but intake more than you're expending. So that becomes a factor whenever you head out into the woods. Now, when you get out into the woods and you start hiking, then you start fishing, you start, doing all these strenuous activities. When you get out there, you're going to really put yourself in your energy levels are really going to decline. And so I think I spoke about this before whenever we covered food, last year, but my brother and I went for 10 days. We brought a pound of beans and some dehydrated vegetables. The rest of the time we were going, and I brought a peanut butter jar, a little jar of peanut butter. The rest of the time we were going to supplement our food with whatever we caught. The fish were not biting. We couldn't catch any fish. We finally started catching some fish, but for the first several days, we didn't catch any fish. The fish, and then we were expending more calories than we were actually taking in, and our energy levels just started dropping. So when you get out there and you haven't had anything really to eat in a couple of days, your energy, you're going to feel like somebody beat you with a baseball bat. And then, I had that jar of peanut butter. I remember that jar of peanut butter. I think this was like day 5 or 6. And I was just exhausted. I was tired. And I went and I started eating that. And within 2 or 3 bites of that peanut butter, I felt like I could run a marathon. I felt like a brand new individual. I mean, it was amazing. And I told my brother, I said, here, eat the rest of this peanut butter. And he did. And the same thing happened to him. And it was like, wow. So that little jar of peanut butter always makes it into my food bag usually when I head out into the woods, because one, they're very nutrient dense, and they have all the nutrients that you need. Peanut butter has everything that you need. It's got the fats, it's got the calories, the sugars, it's got the protein, the carbohydrates. It's got everything that you need in it, and it really gives you a boost in energy. And so for the next couple of days, we're good to go. But instead of explaining why you need food, which you likely already know, let's explore how to ensure you have enough when you need it. So for our purposes, food can be broken down into 5 categories. We got dehydrated, freeze-dried, just add water, prepackaged, and procured. Now, dehydrated food, if you've ever used a dehydrator, everybody knows that you are removing the moisture from the food by applying a low heat over a long period of time. Now, this is the same principle as cutting venison into small strips and hanging it to dry over a fire or, out in the sun, something to that effect. It's the same thing. It's just a controlled environment. No flies are going to get on it, lay their eggs, stuff like that, And you're doing it on a smaller scale. A dehydrator, by dehydrating your food, you'll often make it hard and brittle depending on the type of food. In most cases, all your dehydrated food is going to be hard and brittle. Now, when it comes to dehydrating food, I love dehydrating vegetables. I love dehydrating onions. I love bell peppers, green beans. Let's see, tomatoes are amazing. Now, there's certain things you have to do to, like potatoes. You have to pre-boil them. Whenever you see the hash brown potatoes in a box, those little boxes that says just add water, let soak for 30 minutes, then cook. Well, what they do is those are pre-boiled and shredded, and then they're dehydrated, and then they're added to the box. And then you add your water to it, and it reconstitutes them. And then from there, you're able to fry them to your liking. If you ever been to Waffle House, they got that nice crispy outside, and throw that cheese and that little bit of ham on there. I think they call it covered and chunked. Yeah. So that's like, that's a South Mississippi thing, I guess, but dehydrated food is an amazing way of reducing the weight. Now, you could take a 10-pound roast and you could dehydrate it, and by the time it's done, you'll have 1 pound of meat. It's just, I'm just figuratively, how do you say that word? Figuratively? Figuratively. I am figuratively saying that, whatever. You know what I mean? So that's just a figure of speech, I guess, because I don't have the weight and I don't have it actually, to scientifically say that. A lot of people this day and age, you lied, you said this, get over yourself. But when you dehydrate your food, you're removing all the moisture out of it. Now, dehydrated tomatoes are amazing. I mean, golly. You add a little bit of salt and pepper to them whenever you dehydrate them. And whenever they dehydrate, they turn into these chips. And they are amazing. They give you the full tomato flavor with the crispness of a potato chip. Zucchini and squash do the same thing. My brother actually introduced me to the zucchini and squash chips. He'd slice them dudes and put a little salt and pepper on them, and then put them in a bag and eat those. And they are way, way more healthier for you than potato chips. And they don't have all the fat content and all that garbage that's going into your body. But, they're good and they're filling. And plus you can rehydrate them for dinner and you're good to go. What I like to do is I'll take onions and garlic and some green beans and, all the vegetables that I dehydrated. I'll take those vegetables and I'll throw them in a pot and cook them, make a beef stew, make it like a stew. I said beef stew, but like a stew, just a vegetable stew. If you got some fish to augment with it, that is an amazing meal, and it really gives you all the minerals and vitamins and stuff that you need, and it boosts your energy. It picks you up. It makes you feel so much better. Next on the list is freeze-dried foods. Now, we've talked about freeze-dried foods so many times. It's crazy. Freeze-dried food is different from dehydrated food in that it involves freezing the food, then thawing it out under a vacuum to remove the moisture. The major advantage to freeze-dried food, and this is over the dehydrated food, is that it drastically reduces weight. An 8-pound roast that has been cooked and freeze-dried will weigh less than a pound, whereas an 8-pound roast turned into jerky will weigh 3 pounds. Okay, so that was what I was getting to, because I did that and did some videos for my YouTube channel. And I did some videos on freeze drying a roast, and I actually weighed the 8-pound roast and then made beef jerky out of it and then weighed it, and it was 3 pounds of roast. But, you got 5 pounds of water content in there, that's crazy. If you're going to carry that much food with you, like 8-pound roast would be a lot of roast for a long time. And, that's a lot of water weight to be carrying around with you. So it's when reconstituted, freeze-dried food retains the same texture as freshly cooked food. Usually, I've had some beef stew type stuff that, some beef that was really questionable, but oh well. I've had some chicken that didn't. That seems to be the problem with large chunks of meat that are freeze dried. Whenever you reconstitute them, they don't all the way get reconstituted for some reason, But it's still good, and it's already cooked. It's already done. So. Freeze drying, a freeze dry unit, if you are able to afford one, is very cost prohibitive for many people. In comparison, if you could get one of the freeze dried units to make your own meals, you can cook anything, throw it in the freeze dryer, and turn it into a freeze dried meal. My brother was joking. He was like, "Man, we need a freeze dryer so we could go ahead and throw some chicken leg quarters in there." I was like, "Okay, let's try that. Let's do." I've never had freeze dried chicken leg quarters, but who knows? It might be something that actually works, So that's crazy. But freeze drying is expensive. A commercial dehydrator can cost you somewhere in the neighborhood of $4,000, but you can also find small models for $2,000. So there's actually a misprint in the book. They put 400 and as low as 20. So actually, I goofed up. No, a commercial dehydrator can be found at around $400, and a small one can be $20. What I was talking about with the freeze drying machine is you can get them between $2,000 and $4,000, $2,000 and up. I saw a freeze dry machine that was $1,100,000 and something $1,000, and it was a commercial kind of walk-in freeze dryer. I was like, holy moly, who has that kind of money? Some people do. I mean, especially for businesses. But anyway, I was wrong whenever I said there was an error in the book. The commercial dehydrators are expensive. The personal home dehydrators are cheaper. I bought a commercial dehydrator for about $150 from Academy, believe it or not, of all places, Academy Sports. And it's got 5 trays in there, and it does everything that I need it to do. I have dehydrated so much food on there that if it broke tomorrow, I would go buy a brand new one. That's crazy. Now, the third category is just add water. Readily available at pretty much any grocery store or, big box store, any store, is just add water food. And for instance, that is mashed potatoes, broccoli and rice, or macaroni and cheese, or those are just a few examples. And all you need is access to water, and you'll have a decent meal in no time. Granted, that's all going to be carbs. You're not going to have a lot of proteins in there, but what you're looking for is something to give you energy, and the carbohydrates are going to give you the energy anyway. Number 4 is going to be prepackaged foods. Now, popular prepackaged foods for primitive camping include sardines, beans, Vienna sausage, Spam, any kind of canned meats, any kind of canned anything. That is prepackaged foods. One of the best prepackaged foods that I ever use is a summer sausage, and you can get the little 6-ounce ones, or you can get the 1-pound ones. They don't, they don't take up a lot of room, and they don't need refrigerated. And after you open it is whenever they need to be eaten within a couple of days, but they still last for several days after you open them. So you could eat a pound of summer sausage and have all the proteins, meats, and fats, and, meats, all the fats and proteins and all that stuff that you need. And it will really help you cognitively to think. They're finding out now that cholesterol is what makes the brain. A lack of cholesterol is causing Alzheimer's, believe it or not. All these folks are on these cholesterol pills. All right, so next we have procured food. Procured foods is anything gained from hunting, fishing, or foraging that augments what you brought with you. These require some additional skills and knowledge, of course, but the results are well worth the effort. And doing that, we're talking about foraging for different kind of berries. We're talking about mushrooms, different stuff. If you're foraging for any kind of wild edibles, I encourage you to get some kind of guide to show you how to look for wild edibles for the area that you're in. You can be in a certain area and eat something that it looked like something else from another area, and it would have been poisonous. There's, all kinds of stuff like that. So, but anyway, procured food is anything gained. Fishing. If you're going to go out, you're going to go fishing. Fishing is the most readily available source of procured food, and easy. It's easy to bring you a small fishing pole with you and go fishing. And I have a telescoping fishing pole that I've showed in many videos, and it goes on my backpack, and it's easily deployable, and I catch fish with it, and I augment what I'm fishing. I augment what I'm eating, Boy, my eyes are itching today. But, when you get out there and you start procuring your own food, it is very, very important to know what it is that you are actually eating. You don't just eat something and not know what it is. Make sure you can 100% positively, absolutely identify what you're putting into your mouth. So, all right. So next week, what we're going to go over is, like dehydrating stuff. We're going to break dehydrating down. I'm going to go through different steps about making beef jerkies, eggs, and different vegetables and stuff like that. And then after that, we're going to keep going systematically all the way through the rest of the book. It's gonna be good times. And I had some people that saw last week's episode that really gave me some ideas and let's talk about doing bushcraft on the budget. And I think that is a very good idea. And we're going to start going through some of that stuff as well. But anyway, hopefully this stuff's helpful. Hopefully you enjoy it. Pick up your copy of Primitive Camping and Bushcraft right now. It's on sale at Amazon for $14.40. And it's got a normal cover price of $20. So go ahead, swing by Amazon, pick up a copy of the book. And then also check out Primitive Camping and Bushcraft Blend Coffee. This stuff is great. We got a group on Facebook called Primitive Camping and Bushcraft, and a lot of folks in there have been posting pictures of their coffee, and it's awesome to see. And a lot of folks have been posting pictures of the book. But anyway, I thank you so much for joining me, and I appreciate all your support. And I will have that book into the mail for you, Mr. Allman, coming Monday. Today is Saturday. So Monday, when you're hearing this podcast, you'll be good to go. All right. I really thank you guys. I appreciate you. And I'll see you next time. God bless you.